The key for developing indigenous Christian community formation is particularly for expatriates who come into a place where there isn't the gospel, is to try to locate and bring to Christ these imaginative expression specialists. As an example, a friend of mine who had been a missionary for years in Kyrgyzstan went into that country not as a missionary, because he couldn't get in as a missionary. He went in as setting up a recording studio, which morphed into not only musical recording but also video recording. And he was a good guitar player, but not a great guitar player. But when he got into the country, in order to learn the culture, he took lessons from some traditional stringed instrument Kyrgyz folk musicians, and in the process got to know a number of the professional folk musicians in the country. And in his interaction with them, not only did he learn a little stuff, but he had put himself under the nationals who were not believers, and in the process won about 15 of them to the Lord. Basically, they planted a little church in this recording studio, which never looked like a church, but it was a church. And in the process, encouraged them to start expressing themselves in their own cultural heart language. And after some time, the Lord moved in some of them to begin to create songs that were biblically based with biblical content, but were Kyrgyz in the way they felt and smelled and tasted. And in the process, of course, that church grew and evangelism happened, but also they began to write a body of, may I say, hymnic material in Kyrgyz form that actually is now across the nation. And one Christmas song is, as I understand it anyway, as well known in Kyrgyzstan as "O Come All You Faithful" is known in North America. That is a dynamic of how it crosses into worship. We need to release people to worship in their heart language and their heart expressions. Why? Because as John Piper says, worship is a Godward expression of the heart. I often ask, where's worship located? It's located in the heart. Therefore, you could say that worship must always be personal, and sometimes it's public, and most of the time it's private. And then when we're in public, we culminate our private worship, which is personal, into the liturgies and rituals we're carrying out in public, whether it's singing or praying or standing or sitting or honoring or acknowledging or remembering or having communion. All of these dynamics, if you stop and think about that, they're all artistic expressions. That is, they're imaginative expressions that are not themselves the reality, but we look through the observable reality into the deeper realities. We're looking at the atonement and celebrating the atonement, the death, the burial, the resurrection and the ascension into heaven of the Lord Jesus. That's a big reality. And humans can't just get it by going, how about that? He died and rose again. No, Jesus said, take these elements and remember me until I come again. He got it. How we need review and repetition, but we also need a dynamic where the mystery of the Lord comes and touches us as we exercise these practices. That's what the spiritual disciplines are. They don't get us into heaven. They shape our soul on earth while we're looking toward heaven and walking our life out. So the artistic person is absolutely key. We need expatriates coming in, identifying nationals, and then releasing those nationals. Actually, I don't want to be patronizing here, but giving them permission, because oftentimes they don't think they have permission. They want to do it like we want to do it. But look, as I learned actually from a friend of mine teaching at one of the seminaries nearby, my way is not Yahweh. Your way is not Yahweh. God's ways, but laid out in this, the doctrine of multiculture is God's way, and He wants His truth, which never changes, to actually change clothes in every culture.